Season's greetings and welcome to another Stompy 51 miniature adventure. Today we're going to talk about Gretchin artillery. Because since the cheeseburger, what better combination has there been since combining the sheer comic, characterful, charismatic brilliance of Paul Bonner, Games Workshop, Gretchin, aka Goblins, with giant pieces of artillery, or at least as big as the cost of metal, casting, and technology at the time would allow. Though we must recognise the reality that the chances of you dying and getting killed by a cheeseburger are much higher than getting killed by a Gretchin tractor cannon. Crikey, it's gloomy outside, not much daylight to capture the glories of my limited painting skills here. So I actually didn't paint them off for 40k, painted them for Mantic's Deadzone and Firefight. In Deadzone, you can have gun tracks, which are vehicles, but I mean, these things are wheeled, and they don't get any armor, so they're just movement 1, so pretty slow. And you can either have a stabilized HEW cannon, I don't know what that is, but it's armor piercing 5. You know, bear in mind that walkers are like, you know, armor 3. So, and they're one of the higher end armored entities in the game. And so that, to my mind, which must be some kind of las cannon, that looks like an HEW cannon to me. And you've got a heavy mortar, which is heavy indirect frag 4. And this World War I type bombard cannon is going to be that. And then in Firefight, you can have a missile launcher or an HEW cannon. None of these things look like a missile launcher, and so I would say that's going to be that. Again, an HEW cannon with armor piercing 5. So I like the idea of each one of these being a bit of a diorama, because certainly in the historical Warhammer 40k rules, you know, the crew were on a separate base, which I always felt made them feel a bit disparate and unnecessarily differentiated from the actual cannons. You never really felt like there were little people scrambling around. And so here what I did was try to kind of create a little story with the little pairs of goblins, which, as you can see, aren't actually the original goblins, I think, properly matched to each of these guns, but does that really matter? So he's the kind of creative brains of the operation, always looking for the next opportunity to take out the enemy, whilst Mr. Fix-It over here, who I think is from a slightly different era, I think an earlier era, possibly Kev Adams, I'm not sure, he's legging it off with his box of tools because he's realised this isn't quite up to the great aspirations of the boss over there. Now, many of you will tell me that I have no understanding of the colour wheel. Why would I paint a Space Marine helmet purple and put it on a grey rock? But what I would say to you is, it's part of, you know, the creativity of this fellow over here. You know, he just picks things up, and this is a matter of what they call, I think, tendentious realism. So I remember studying once that if you've got, is it Chekhov who says if a gun is brought onto the stage in scene 1, then in scene 5 it's going to end up going off, because what is the point of bringing a gun onto the stage otherwise? You need to have a nice tight script. But in tendentious realism, there are just bits which don't quite make sense, because in life, every single thing that happens to you in your day doesn't quite fit in to some kind of neat story. And so if I'd made this white, it would obviously have been staged. If I made it yellow, it would have clashed with that. If I'd made it red, well, I thought there's plenty of red going on all over these as it is. So it's fine. And of course you've got a bit of blood for the blood god over there, because why not be absolutely puerile? Because there's probably still a head in there, because although these guys look kind of cute, the reality is that they're pretty vicious. And there's an identical gun. And the way I painted these again was to keep things very simple. It took me the better part of a month, you know, a few hours on a Saturday morning and Sunday morning. But I tried to keep it simple, otherwise they would have taken forever. And as ever with these things, you have to decide when to call it. So some of these things are just kind of 2 layers of highlighting. So it was a base yellow on that, added a bit of white, and then left it at that. Same with all the little cables and wires. I thought they did kind of break up the dark metal color. The dark metal color I just painted down, took packaging material with chainmail, whatever it's called these days, got rid of most of it, dabbed it around to make it look kind of cracked, and then went a bit wild with this dark dirt, which is from Cromlech, and as you can see, helps kind of dust it up, because these goblins aren't really going to be maintaining these very well as they drag through this kind of Avatar-like, Pandora-like forest world. And what does it say on it? You can use Cromlech weathering powders to create very realistic weathering on your models. True. Excellent for tanks and vehicles. True. You can use it straight from the pot, which I did, or mix with water, which would, I think, make it kind of like a wet dirt kind of, you could smear everywhere. And actually, in retrospect, would that have been better? I mean, what I would say is it doesn't go everywhere. That was the wrong thing to say. I think if I put down, what I've done historically is put down a bit of Lamian medium where I wanted to kind of collect, and that acts as a kind of glue. And I didn't do this time, and so, I mean, I've only just applied it, but I'm not sure how useful or healthy it is to have this stuff floating around. It is basically brown talcum powder, and the fact that it sticks makes me think, is this a good thing to be using at all? I mean, it does say all Cromlech weathering powders are made from non-toxic natural materials, and they are not flammable, but don't give it to someone under 10. But anyway, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just dark brown talcum powder, I assume. But I did use a mask when putting it on, in case any went around. You don't want this getting in your lungs. I always like mixing in techie and industrial, make something a bit organic. And that's from an Impact Miniatures spin cast Kev Adams Goblin, which had a banner and it broke. And as I always say, these things are just an opportunity for further kit bashing. And so now it will spend its life occupying a little piece of grim darkness on this Gretchin base. So, bit of workplace bullying over here. He's just bossing around someone who's basically too little to be pushing this around. But equally, is he innocent? Is he innocent? Because there's a bit of blood for the blood god on his wrench. So he's been running around clonking people on the head, because that's just who he is. And that rock over there isn't just any rock. I picked it up on a holiday near a volcano. There are obviously a lot of tiny rocks there, like the entire surrounding area of the volcano. And so I picked up a handful of these because they seemed lightweight, and I thought that'll be fun. They can go onto a base. And so, having come from the innards of the earth, they now occupy a characterful little piece of the grim dark future. Now, normally it's not good having too exact sculpt in my word. It kind of makes me think boring. But equally, I thought to myself, they now look like they're kind of going crazy in Verdun, slam one in fire, slam one in fire. They're just keeping up this massive rate of fire. I hadn't realised when I picked all of these up secondhand. I hadn't realised that was missing, but equally, who's going to know? Not everything is being maintained to tip-top battlefield standards. The dirt, as you can see over there, really makes it and gives you a sense that dirt is collected in the grooves of this cannon. And then I had a bit of fun, only doing, again, just 2 layers, nothing fancy, for the little Gretchin artwork in the front, because I thought, they're just, as well as being evil and scheming and cunning, they are little artists screaming to get out. And I had a little bit of extra leftover resin water effect, which I'll show you in a minute where I put it. And I thought, hey, let me just put it on top of here, so these can be like little lacquered bits of tile work, which the little Gretchin have decided to decorate the cannon with. And there they go. And this was one of my favourite little Gretchin. So he's from an earlier period to him. He must be very early 90s, like 91. He's probably like, I don't know, 97. Comments down in the comments. And he's got a giant little screwdriver and a little hammer. So, you know, he's a diligent little short, tubby fellow, keeping an eye on things, and he's just fixing it. So these guys, less of a story there, though I always look through my bits box, and anything which is going, I think, could make a bit of a story. So here you can see that the big orcs have actually fought for the battlefield, and then these guys have kind of come up with their cannon later on, having seized the Zeylau Heights, and are now going to bombard from their positions. But the hard work remains, a bit of blood for the blood god, a bit of weathering powder, and a lot of greenery. And I'm not sure what this is. This must fire flame, because I'm never really sure what to do with these little canisters. I think they often just paint them gold. I mean, bronze or something like that. But what I did over here was I painted it red, imagining it's holding some kind of nasty, inflammable chemical. And then I put water effect on just lightly to make it look like it's a kind of glass container, glass canister. And I think it helps break up the metal, and then it comes through this kind of greyish brown set of tubes into the firing mechanism, and then spews forth the flame. Crikey, the total lack of research for this YouTube channel just screams out sometimes. That's not anything to do with being a flamethrower. It's a tractor cannon. Ooh, hello Gretchin crew number 5 and 6. Got those. We'll have to find a use for number 2, who I have as well. Though, do I really need any more? Ooh, shiny. Maybe for next Christmas. Anyway, please do like, comment and subscribe in the usual way. If you're bored over the Christmas period, drop me a comment and we can exchange, interesting thoughts about the hobby. Either way, keep well, keep safe, and I hope to see you soon.